Funny, I'm sitting here fiddling around with my phone trying to get the best possible picture of this scene, wondering why is it so dull? Why are the colors so washed out? I don't get it. I've tried every possible setting on here. I just can't get it to capture it the way that I'm seeing it. And then I realized I'm never going to get it to look the way that I'm seeing it. We can sometimes get close or in the general direction, but this, what you're seeing, is nothing like what I'm seeing with my own human eyes. This is church. This is Sunday church. Case in point, you don't even see this guy right now, but I do, and he makes me smile. I saw him go in there, and I'm gonna struggle to get the camera to pick it up. He's up there. See him? There he is. Just came out. Camera will never do it justice. There's a bird that nests here. Not sure what type of bird it is. If it's maybe a grouse, could be a pheasant or something like that. Whatever it is, the dogs, they love to sniff around here because an animal's been there. And it's a little, disheveled now, but before this was carefully manicured and the dirt was, exposed, probably so that the animal could get as close to the ground and keep cool as possible. But this is a good analogy for how we move from different places in our lives, and we're not where you last found us. A lot of people from your past might come up and say, where's Matt? Where's Bob? Whatever. This is the last place I saw him. This is the last thing he was doing when I last saw him. He should be here, but he's not. Where could he be? Meanwhile, this bird is off living its life. It's grown. Maybe it's grown too big for this particular nest site. Maybe it's just evolved past it. Who knows? The point is, it's not here anymore, and it's somewhere else. That's the point I'm trying to make. If you look for me where I was before, sitting in a computer chair playing video games for the better part of my life, you're not going to find me there anymore. I've flown away. So many lessons to be learned just being in nature. That's why I forget who said it. I'm probably going to massacre the quote, but I'm paraphrasing. Whatever parents can't teach a child, let them loose in nature. Nature will take care of the rest. I would argue that the primary lessons come from nature, and that we're the ones that are supplementing. But certainly no public education systems or indoctrination machines work into this equation. It's an abomination. Couldn't be further from reality. But this is where we are. This is where we come from. This is where we belong. And this is how we reconnect. There's no other way. There is no other way. Nature is the way. The Creator is the way. There is no other way. The Creator is the way. This is the way. I had to, I'm sorry. And the Grogu shirt, come on. That was just too good to pass up. But, jokes aside, I'm serious when I say this. This camera doesn't capture a fraction of what I'm seeing right now. You know, the forest is, if you look at it with the right set of eyes, it comes alive. You know, this green that you're seeing on the screen right now is nothing compared to the vibrancy and just that hue of green. Okay, the camera might be picking up on it a little bit, but there's no explaining that color. You cannot explain that color. It can only be experienced. You know, just as how the juxtaposition of the red, I don't even know if the camera's capturing that or not. There's red foliage coming through in the background there, and that just accentuates the green foliage in the foreground. It's just unbelievable. Life is just such a beautiful painting that's so underappreciated, so undervalued. I fall in the traps and the pitfalls of depression and anxiety and getting lost in the, you know, just the mundane existence, and it's an insult to the sanctity of life. There's so many things that are an insult to the sanctity of life these days. But certainly we can do ourselves a favor and avoid, you know, some of that self-inflicted. You know, there's enough stuff happening to us that we don't need to add to that. More importantly, we're not victims of anything. We are not bystanders. We are not passengers in this life. We are not spectators. We are this thing, this phenomenon, this beautiful occurrence that is life. It's not happening to us. It's an expression of life. It's like we are. As the great Alan Watts once said, the universe peoples, just like an apple tree, apples. And the biggest lesson of all is that we're not apart from it. We're not separate. That's the thing. A lot of these powers that try to be, they're not powers that be. They're powers that try to be. You know, they'll try and convince us that this experience is not special, is not anything unusual, but it is. It is. Anyone who stops to think about it for a second will come to the same conclusion. There's no question. But there's so many of these powers that try to be, that step on the sanctity of life, and they're an insult to what life is. And I realized today that it's not about resisting. I'm done resisting. Resisting is to insinuate that you're a part of it still, because if you think of it in terms of electricity, a resistor is something that impedes the flow of electricity, right? Slows it down for a purpose. A resistor, a resistance, is implying that there is something that you're trying to stop that's inevitable, which is not the case. I am not resisting anything. What am I resisting? I'm not even a part of that thing that they are trying to create. As I was saying to my wife, this reality that they would have us believe is the only reality is only a small compartmentalized portion of this thing we call reality, and it's off in the corner somewhere. It doesn't even matter. Meanwhile, this is happening. Dogs being dogs, life just existing to exist, doing what it does best. Life goes on, right? Meanwhile, you got this little tiny fraction of compartmentalized space that's so serious, and oh, it's so important, and my bank account, and you know, my power, and my clothes, and all these external things, they have to make me real. It has to amount to something. It's fucking vapid masturbation. These dogs are embodying what life is all about. Be the dog. Do you think they give a shit about your mask rules? You think these dogs or the birds in the sky give a fuck about what's going on in our pathetic excuse for civilization? This dog cares not. She just wants to run and be free, sniff around and discover things and eat stuff and make mistakes and throw it up and then do it again. That's life. Like that water there is probably stagnant and gross, and I wouldn't drink it. But these guys feel like they can, and who am I to say that they can't? You know, obviously I'm going to protect my dogs from harm as best I can, but it's a dog. And I think we've forgotten that a lot in this day and age, especially when it comes to domesticated animals. They're animals. They're not people. Don't treat them like people. It is a dog. You treat it like a dog. That's not to say that I don't respect my dogs, that I don't treat them the best that I can, but I treat them like a dog because it's a dog, right? I don't treat my dog the same way as I would treat my child, because a dog is a dog and a child is a child. There's no other way of explaining it. This is basic, rudimentary shit. And a lot of this stuff, when I'm taking you along for these walks, it's all basic stuff that I'm honestly embarrassed that I have to go through all this stuff. I listen to Mark Passio and other guys talk, and the stuff they say resonates with me 100%. But I often have to stop and shake my head and go, why the fuck are we going over this basic shit in this day and age? We have to go over this stuff. Basic, common decency. We have to go over basic respect. You know, slave master mentality. We're still struggling with this? Really? That tells me that there's a bigger plan here. There's a bigger agenda than we know. Maybe that we're willing to accept. So, we've heard it, you know, said many times before, and I'll reiterate, you gotta get good with your truths. It's not a matter of belief. It's not a belief system here. This is a matter of truth. There's an objective truth out there, alright? A lot of you people don't want to admit that, but there is an objective truth. I can guarantee you that, so much as I can guarantee you that there's a force of gravity, electromagnetism, all the wonderful things that we've discovered through science. One day, science will catch up, and we'll put some of this bullshit behind us and realize that there is an objective morality out there as well that can be explained with science if only given the chance, and studied in much the same way as we've studied all the other forces of the universe. So it all ties back to natural law. It all ties back to just trying your best to live your life the way that it was intended, and not this machine that we've fallen into, you know? If we use Alan Watts' analogy, the apple falls off the tree and lands in a processor instantly. As soon as you're born, you don't even have a chance to think for yourself, to exist outside of the machine. You're immediately off the apple into the machine. This is a fact. So we're now playing a game of how do we continue on after breaking free from this machine, after expelling ourselves from it, how do you make any type of a normal, whatever that means? How do you establish any sort of a conventional life if you don't even know what that life was supposed to entail? We don't know what human life is supposed to be like, because it's always existed, or at least, in the last few thousand years, it's existed inside this machine, so we don't even know what it looks like. We can look to the past and take our best guess. I don't know. Our ancestors of thousands, maybe millions of years ago, they had a better idea of what life was all about than we do. And I guess that's what we need to reconnect with the forces of our ancestors, those that were connected to the earth. That's what we're going back to. In a way, it's inspiring. It's uplifting. It's motivating to know that some of us at least, are moving in the right direction, and that is moving back in order to move forward. I heard a wonderful quote recently that was, again, I'm going to massacre this quote, so I'll just paraphrase, but it's, how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you came from? Right? I think it's something like, a person who doesn't know his past has no future, something like that. Anyway, so I told you I was going to massacre it, but you get the idea. In order to know where we're going, we need to know where we came from. Duh. It's so obvious. And in order to make this assessment and to know what to do next, we have to live in the present. We have to be mindful. So it all balances out. There's the three sisters analogy coming back in. The trifecta. Oddly enough, while meditating earlier, I had a vision of that three sisters symbol. It's all connected. You feel it. You feel when things are not right. You feel when things are okay, when you're connecting with nature, when you're on track, when you're going with the flow, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't have to be explained to you. Don't have to read a book about it. Just have to feel it. It's like the Tao. Explain to someone what it is to know the Tao. Never gonna happen. The Tao can only be experienced. And that's why it's beyond religion. It's a foundation. Because it's not preaching. It's not asking anyone to believe anything. It's saying, go out there in nature, just like we just did. Experience it. And then decide for yourself. That's all it is. Thanks for watching.